Good. I always feel like, I don't know about you, I come into an AMA and I see sort of 50 odd people there. For some reason, I expect like some sort of noise. I always find it a little bit odd that it's like deathly silent.
Yeah, it's weird, especially when I've just started the event to get the recording bots and stuff going, and I'm just here on my own. So I was just like, I'm just gonna wait for Danny to join, like to talk. Feels like I'm talking to myself.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's almost like we need like a bit of crowd noise or something. But it's good to be back. Thanks everybody that's taken the time. We've got a lot to cover, and we've got to be within the hour today. So I'm sure we're going to get like a lot of questions. I think so. We're going to cover Xenia 2.0. We're going to talk about the Thanksgiving Bonanza drops, just because that's slightly embarrassing, sort of the issues that we still have with the NFT drops, but it's important that we covered that off. And then we're going to give a bit of an update around MDB AI and a roadmap and protocol update. Yeah.
Cool.
Cool. And as ever, if people have got any questions, like please ask within the AMA questions channel. We're 5 minutes in now, so you can see that people going up slightly. Yeah, but if you've got any questions, please put them in the AMA questions channel, and we'll try to answer as we go through. I think the first and foremost, let's talk about the Xenia 2.0 launch, just so that I can sort of offer a bit of an explanation in terms of how the process worked. We obviously had some challenges, the majority of which have been fixed. However, we're still sort of sitting on quite an annoying bug that doesn't actually impact anybody. Actually, it doesn't impact anybody operationally, but it does impact from a UI and UX perspective. So it's quite frustrating. So Xenia 2.0, obviously the farm is picked up, and so there's a bit of background noise there. I wonder, is that from you, Alex?
I'm not doing anything, but I can mute if it helps.
Yeah. Wondering who else is in the house, but yeah. So look, Xenia 2.0, to give an update on that. We obviously the launch of the farms has been huge. It's been super well received. We still have the farm incentive running, obviously, for 4 weeks, and we're approaching 2 weeks, and we still haven't put the vast majority of those rewards into the farms, actually, just to let people know. We've seen some dips in volume, but we're still obviously very healthy volume at the very start. So what we didn't want to do is kind of tip all of the rewards in early on when the volume was very healthy, and then it's dipped off a little bit. But then obviously we've seen pretty healthy volume in the last couple of days as well. Actually, I think we've seen one particular whale who sold off most of their bag in the last couple of days. So that's had a massive impact on our volume and also the payment of rewards. But the great news is that despite all of that and the very healthy APYs, I think we're at about 90% of the bonus to be paid on the farms over the first 4 weeks is still intact after. We're pushing tomorrow or Wednesday. Technically, it's Wednesday morning. We're 48 hours away from the 2-week point, actually. So we've still got a lot of rewards to be pumped out. If people remember, it's $20,000 worth of rewards to be paid out to the farms, and yeah. So like I say, we've probably paid out. It's probably a bit more than it's a bit less than 90% left, actually. It's around 80% left. I think we paid out around $4,000, so we've still got $16,000. So around about $1,000 a day to be manually added to the farm rewards over the next 16 days. So that's some great news. Obviously, in terms of challenges that we saw great volume, great pickup on the farms, had a great impact on the MDB Plus APY. The swapper had issues at launch for some reason. It was actually a UI issue, very strangely, rather than contract. The UI was selecting the wrong option on the contract. Anyone who understands Web3 knows that you've kind of have, a web page and it's connected to a smart contract, and it was making the wrong selection. Ultimately, it had to be relaunched, the full swapper. So it was incorrectly. If you tried to almost quite a cynical tactic, if you tried to sell MDB into BNB, it would go to BNB and then it would buy back MDB and send it back to you. So fantastic way of keeping people in the protocol, but obviously not ideal. We did refund everybody that came forward and made a claim on that, so everybody was put right, and we do apologize for that issue. But the full swapper was relaunched, so now you can swap between actually BUSD and BNB and any tokens within the ecosystem, and that seems to be working like an absolute dream now, which I'm really happy about. It's very easy. I think even myself, I've used it to buy some Phoenix Plus in the last couple of days, and it's fantastic to use. We did have an issue with the Zapper as well. So Zapper's been very popular, obviously offering a net discount in terms of going into the auto compounding farms, and but the issue was that there's always a slight difference. It's not a straight 50-50 when you pair liquidity into a farm. It's slightly off. That amount that it was off, let's call it the edge in the transaction to make it work, was too large, and it was returning 10% of the transaction value to the buyer as MDB. Now, it was returning it as tax-free MDB, actually. So whilst it wasn't doing it, it wasn't as clean as it should have been. At the same time, it was providing tax-free MDB, which is still not working as planned. Zappers were relaunched again a couple of days ago, and or maybe 5 days ago now, and again seems to be working really well. Actually, I think in a Zap transaction, there's always a little bit of change, as it's called, and that should be returned to the investor, but that change was too much. Everything seems to be working absolutely fine now, and so we're very happy with where that is. The big problem that we've still got outstanding with Xenia 2.0 is around showing assets. So some people, and this has always kind of been there to a certain degree, it's very difficult when you see intermittent UI issues, because typically developers want to recreate the issue so they can see it, diagnose it, fix it. So there's always been comments around variations of what assets people would see on Xenia 2.0. Well, on Xenia, when we launched Xenia 2.0, what we saw was that you had actually some people were just not seeing any assets turn up. Other people were seeing the auto farm. Some people weren't seeing the auto farm, and it's been quite painful, to be honest. Now, we had some, just being very open, we had some service issues with our developers after we launched. Obviously, anyone who's around at the time knows that I stayed up very late, made sure that we got launched, and then our speed of fixing the issues wasn't good enough, and our testing wasn't good enough. I then spent the next 24 hours manually, testing and going over everything myself as well, and then we started to work through the fixes after a few days, but it was far too slow. So again, apologize for that. I have a meeting with developers today. We need to think about remedial action. We're always going to be sort of like pushing the boundaries and bringing changes to the protocol. So it's not a situation that we can see again. But that's a kind of an update in terms of where we are. That then has delayed the launch of the bonds, because you don't want to start throwing more things into a situation where it's not working as should. So I've got a meeting with the developers tonight. Obviously, we've been away today's sort of like first full day back in, and we should be able to cover off any points today, and hopefully have some clarity in terms of when we can push that bond live in the next 24 hours. Or did you have any points you wanted to add on Xenia 2.0, Alice? And then maybe we can just have a look at what questions we've got.
I think you've covered everything on it, to be fair. I think just a thank you for the guys' patience while we were working through the issues, probably the main thing. Obviously, with the best will in the world, you can't always get everything perfectly working first time, especially with coding and bugs and stuff. So I just really appreciate your patience with us whilst we were working through that. So
definitely. A couple of questions in the chat. I mean, are we going to be oil barring, guys? What happened with Ambo? A lot to cover, Pi. We'll probably the day we start doing updates on other protocols on the AMA, we've probably not got enough to do on our own. But I am curious. So if you want to drop into the chat, I'm not aware of anything that's gone on with those guys. But are we? Sorry, go on.
Is Ambo another project?
Yeah. It's oil pipeline NFT. Yeah, I'm not aware of anything. Sorry, Pi. If it's probably not the place to get updates on Ambo, but at the same time, even if I did, I couldn't help you. I couldn't help you in any case because I don't know. I don't know anything about it. Question here. So from Dumpe, so can we have all assets showing? I suppose the idea is at the top is it that it shows your assets. It doesn't show, Xenia shows all of the assets on the platform. So a few people say this. They'd like to see, yeah. So the whole point is that you have your assets showing when you load Xenia. So maybe like fill me in, guys, if you think there's a practical reason why you would want to show what isn't your asset in your assets page. Open to it, always open-minded, but it's not currently how it's designed. Any plans for infinity price appreciation? I don't think anybody ever does anything in any sort of like market-based economy without any plan for appreciation. Yeah. Cool. Alice, have you spotted any other questions that you think?
I don't think so. Just double checking. No, a lot of gifts as usual.
Yeah. Is there any other? And as well, I think Alice already said. One thing that we should mention is with Xenia 2.0, there was a huge amount of patience shown by people, but also like a massive team effort. Like some of the tickets that we had, some of the efforts that people have gone to. We had even a developer that we know from another project kind of reach out to us and offered some of their time and the community themselves. Like, there's a huge amount of patience, but also a huge amount of time and sort of diligence put into giving feedback and looking at issues and understanding them and talking about them like really constructively as well. So like when we had the Zap issue, I remember there was like Michael Ensol and a couple of other people, and they just really like stood back and tried to understand what was happening and then understood it and then shared it, which is like a really constructive and helpful environment for us to go through what was obviously a couple of operational challenges. So I really appreciate sort of the time and effort that people put into that.
A few questions about Infinity. I'm so happy my show. Will we get Infinity fund reports too? We have got an update on Infinity. I'm in the same anyway, so I'm not going to pull up any questions about Infinity just yet. Just because they'll become more relevant later.
Yeah, there's a good question around Phoenix Plus auto reinvestment working. We didn't, just a little heads up, we didn't announce this, but we didn't actually do any infernos whilst we had the problems with Xenia 2.0, because what we didn't want to do is just dig any holes deeper than we already had them, quite frankly. So we left it to run a bit. And we'll be starting the infernos actually again tomorrow. So it's a fantastic question. So it's been a bit of a free pass. It means the APYs then come down, which is very natural if it starts to become a little bit static. But also people haven't been infernoed actually out of Phoenix Plus for some time. So we'll start again tomorrow, and it's tested and it seems to be working just fine. So if you've set your Phoenix Plus auto reinvestment to 0, which I have, so 0 MDB Plus, if you are infernoed, then you will be automatically reinvested back into Phoenix Plus, albeit, we haven't done the Infernos because of the issues that we had with Xenia 2.0, and the Infernos will start again tomorrow, albeit, you'd be pretty unlucky to be Infernoed, I think, straight off the bat tomorrow. So you could be waiting another, 5-10 days before you might see that you've actually been reinvested back into Phoenix Plus, but everything seems to be working just fine on that front. But we were just taking a very cautious approach because of the challenges that we had. Sorry, there was another question on the same topic. So when I reset Phoenix Plus to 0, should take away my MDB Plus immediately and buy Phoenix Plus. Exactly. It doesn't actually happen immediately because it happens as 2 transactions. What you're doing is when you click the auto reinvest, you're actually giving Xenia the permission to sell your MDB Plus for Phoenix Plus. You're only allowing it to do that. It can't take your MDB Plus and go and spend it on a Lambo. It can only move you from one asset to the other, but you were giving it permission to do so, and that's exactly what should happen when that's triggered. But it's not one transaction actually; they're 2 separate transactions. So you being Infernoed would be one transaction, and then moving from MDB Plus back into Phoenix Plus would be a second transaction. And the questions are getting even more sensible.
Did you? I don't think you covered this one. Yeah, will it show total asset value on Xenia?
Not at the moment. That's something that's on our agenda, but not at the moment, because that was just one of the things where we were just pushing the scope too much, and you can't complain about developers and timelines and glitches, and then change the picture at a really late date. So, like I say, we've got a meeting with them today, and that's one of the things that's on the agenda.
Cool.
I think there was just to cover off. So there were questions pre Xenia 2.0 launch around having a claim all button, and on Ethereum with smart contracts, you can trigger multiple transactions with a single transaction. On BSC, you actually can't. It's impossible to do that. So that's the reason. In case anybody was wondering why you're not able to have a claim all for all of your rewards on Xenia.
Cool. Did you want to carry on then?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanksgiving Bonanza drop. So all of the tokens, all of the rewards. So congratulations. I think it was Legend for Style that picked up a 50% bonus, which is insane. So I think he picked it up with a big buy, but considering sort of the reward, it was I think it was about $10,000 buy, and they picked up 50% on top of that. So they bought sort of 1 million tokens and got or 1 million tokens before tax, and then they would have got another 50% on top of that. So congratulations to them. Other people had bonuses for the biggest buy per day whilst Thanksgiving was going on, and then other people were winning NFTs for having either an Infinity or an MTP buy of a certain value, plus also an NFT for the highest value buy. So quite frankly, when you try and send lots of NFTs, it's really painful, it's really laborious, and even the process of signing a transaction seems to take a lot longer for some reason. So we to find a much simpler technical solution, we had a smart contract built where you could put in the addresses and the NFT numbers, and then you could put it all in as one big transaction, and it could send out all of I think it's 36 NFTs to 24 addresses, which honestly would take a long time doing it individually. Unfortunately, we've been unable to make that smart contract work and actually deploy the NFT. So we're still at the start of the process. Again, it's a conversation that we've got with the developers today, and if at the end, hopefully the drop happens in the next few hours. And if we're still unable to make it work technically, then tonight is our last chance, and we're going to have to draw a line, and we'll just have to go through the process manually, and everyone will start receiving their NFTs within the next 24 hours. Any questions on that? I think that's fairly clear. It's a fairly binary point. Any questions from you, Alice?
No questions from me. I'm just admiring the gifts in the chat as usual.
Super mature. There's a few questions actually around. There's a few questions around our trip to Dubai. I think we've got. There's a few things. So we've been exploring sort of overseas business registrations, exploring sort of partnerships and business opportunities as well. And we're always looking. We a bit like a racing driver has to look far ahead. I think if you want to move at pace, you can't always be looking like at the here and now. You have to be looking sort of longer term into the future and thinking strategically how you can align yourself. So the trip to the Middle East was majority holiday, part business, and look, there isn't. I think just to share some sort of anecdote. I think in the region, there's clearly lots of money and there's lots of investors there, and I think it's really important that you find. It's really important that you find the right sort of partnerships and business opportunities that are going to be sort of like long term helpful to you. I think with crypto, it does attract a lot of investors where they are looking for an entry and exit point, very, very crudely, in a relatively short space of time, right? I think if you look at how a lot of, being very honest, how VCs operate, and then you look at large tokens, I think there's some really interesting articles around which show how token allocations for VCs have basically been a way for even some pretty large blockchains of institutional investors dumping on retail, and we don't want to enter into a situation where either we're doing that for any large investors, but at the same time, we don't want to sell a story to someone just to give exit. There's always the joke of shake oil, exit liquidity. We don't want to do it the other way. So, we're looking at business opportunities for the protocol, but we're always looking at business opportunities that we can deliver at the right pace, that deliver long-term value, rather than it'd be very easy to go and find someone who's got very deep pockets and say, give us, and I know other protocols do this, by the way. They go and find a load of whales, they say, okay, let's pump it, and you get a load of manipulation, and then there's just massive downside on the other side of that process. That's not something that we are doing or interested in doing, but it was, at the same time, there was definitely a number of opportunities that we came across, and it's super interesting, and we'll definitely be back in the region very soon.
Cool.
I don't know. Have you got any comments, Alice?
Yeah, no, it was an interesting trip for sure. And yeah, quite keen to go back as soon as possible. Lots of things to consider. Learned loads actually, which was good. But yeah, nothing crazy to add to what you've already said, I don't think, to be fair.
Okay, was there any questions on that just before we move on to the next point?
No more questions about Infinity. Pi, we are gonna update on Infinity later in the AMA, so we're not answering any Infinity questions just yet, just because they'll become more topical later on. I'm just trying to keep like a format. But no, I think that's. So I'm just trying to scroll back. Yeah, no other questions at the moment. Harley said Mina loves her new Louis bag. No new bags for me. Didn't. If I was going to go shopping, it wouldn't be out there anyway. It's expensive. It's really expensive. I don't know why people go shopping out there. Anyway, so yeah, no, that's it. So, Travis. So I'm Travis. Are you honing in on a couple of opportunities in Dubai, or do you have an array of interests?
That's an interesting. I think we're always looking at opportunities. I think it's being very open. We've been talking to a range of investors for some time, and just before FTX happened, the sentiment for larger and institutional investors was starting to get really positive very quickly. There was a bit of a drum being beat around a very clear recovery expected early next year, and then FTX happened, and I think just when people were getting over everything that's happened this year and starting to feel like, and typically larger investors also want to be ahead of the game, so just as everybody was starting to think, okay, well, if something's going to move in 3, 4, 5 months, we need to be thinking about taking up positions now. Then confidence was absolutely knocked. And even when we were over there, even people that I met that don't really know crypto too much would talk about the FTX situation. So I think every time something huge like that happens, I think people are very interested in crypto because of the potential for it long term, and it's very disruptive. And every sort of like absolutely huge sort of mainstream scandal that makes mainstream media sets us back. And so I think, and especially because you're coming towards that natural end point of the year, my view on the market and the way things are developing is that it could be rocky over the next sort of like month. Around Christmas, New Year is always a bit rocky, and then everybody will be looking for early signs of recovery sort of around January, February, and then I think some momentum could start to build. But if we keep seeing these massive failures, black swan events, then I think every time one of those things happen, then you add in 3 to 6 months, and if you get 3, 4 of those, then I think we could easily be in sort of like a sharp recovery position, I think, in the first half of 2023 as an industry and economically, and a lot of it depends on sort of macro things as well. But if you see another 2, 3, 4 of those sort of black swan events nicely spaced out, then you could easily burn another year. It seems like yesterday that it was the first week of May, and it seems like it's just happened that Terra Luna was just not too long ago, but it's swallowed up most of the year, right? And those sorts of events, and we could very easily see another 9 months of that happening. So just being very, very blunt around sort of how we see the market and what people's sentiment is like. And it was like sentiment was much more positive a few weeks ago, pre FTX, and that just took, it's kind of took the wind out of everybody's sails from an investment point of view, if I'm completely honest. Hopefully that's kind of helpful.
Cool. Right. So I think that covers everything at the moment. Did you want to move on?
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
Sure. So, in terms of MDB AI, so we, I've got another update in a second, but in terms of MDB AI, we're just finalising some details in the next sort of 24, 48 hours, and we should be able to get more information out. I know we got a light paper on sort of the system. We're still, very confident about the system. We believe in the system. I think this approach of being able to spread your opportunities, but then also hedge against your risk and make something completely liquid at the same time is something that we're really committed to putting sort of time and energy into, and we'll have some updates in the coming days in terms of specific timelines. We have been considering a little bit of alpha. Appreciate, we have a very big millionaires club now. We have around about 130 VIPs in the protocol as well, and so I'm very conscious that we do MDB AI. We don't want it to be like a launch or anything like that. We want it to be fairly small, run for the 90 days proof of concept as we set out, measure the results, and then expand from there. But I appreciate there's a lot of demand. So we're thinking about the system to see whether we can maybe whitelist everybody that's in millionaires club, so everybody gets the opportunity to buy one, and we'll think about whether we maybe offer that as 2 for VIP, but we don't want it to grow arms and legs and become like this clamor for something when we want to go through it in a very sort of like sensible and patient approach. So there will be updates on MDB AI within the next 24 to 48 hours.
Cool. Sorry to interrupt. Slightly off topic. Have you signed the multi-sig transaction?
It's glitched.
Oh, okay. Just Adam chased me to ask you. So yeah. To jump in.
Was there any questions on that point?
Doesn't look like it at the moment, and no one is typing, so I think we're good.
Good. Okay. So, we've got something we've been trying to do, and it's kind of glitching on us in the background. So that's the problem when you're trying to multitask, but it's quite important. Bear with me 1 second. Got an issue with my machine. Let me just resolve this.
I thought we'd lost you then. You just sort of stopped talking.
Yeah, no, let me just change with me. Okay. Yeah, thanks for the support as usual, Master. I suppose the next topic's slightly sensitive, and also like really, really important. So we've been taking a lot of time to think about sort of the protocol and the direction that we're going in, and also the market around us and the challenges we face. Our objectives are exactly the same as they've always been, which are that we want our backing of the protocol to increase as quickly as possible. So it's really important that we are driving sort of like very effective, very reliable yields, whilst also keeping our risk strategy to a very sensible level as well. In addition, yeah. So there's some feedback coming, Alice, from your line.
I'll mute. 1 sec.
Thanks. There you go. So our goals are obviously to increase our backing, to try and drive volume through the protocol as much as we possibly can, because that's what helps us all, and also to increase the burn as much as possible. I think No Name did some good investigation work actually, and he shared that within the first sort of like week and a bit of the auto compounding farms, we can see that actually 500,000 MDB tokens have been burnt within that time. And so I think we've got, very effective contributor to that. So our goal is always to reduce the amount of supply in circulation. We're not actually that bothered about market cap, because in truth, if we're burning our supply very quickly, then we're also reducing our market cap. It doesn't impact the price. The price can still move in a very positive in a positive direction. I think so. The slightly sensitive topic is that we are going to announce a protocol restructure to simplify our structure. How many times can you say structure? And also help us moving towards that. So our headline objectives are going to be the changes that we're going to make are going to help us to burn anywhere up to 30 million MDB tokens in the next 60 days. They are going to significantly increase the backing of the protocol, significantly increase our yields, and also our ability to do buybacks. And long term, we see a lot more potential for that supply to burn down very quickly. Now, probably the major move, there's going to be lots of details that are going to follow on Friday in the AMA that we share. It's very difficult for me to say this, actually, because from an ego perspective, it hurts to say this, but you have to put business first, and we have to do the right thing by the protocol and its investors. And so we've come to the decision that we're going to cease trading on Infinity with immediate effect. So actually, I've just paused trading on Infinity. We'll put out an announcement within the next few minutes. What that means if you're an Infinity holder is that in a relatively short space of time, so we should be able to get this done in somewhere in the region of about 8 or 9 days as an absolute maximum. Anyone that's holding Infinity will receive 100% of the value strike price that's going to be called, because it's this is quite a meaty integration that we're going to have to do. So there'll be no impact if you're staking, no negative impact. So there'll be no sort of like 5% taken away. There'll be no sell tax. There's no buy tax into MDB. But yeah, there's 5 or 6 things that we're going to announce on Friday. All of them pretty interesting, to be honest, and driving us towards our goal. But the number one thing is that we're going to shut down Infinity. To be very open, I think we held back with Infinity. We were very patient with it. Its spread is quite thin, and then the market hasn't improved, right? And I think Infinity is doing what it's meant to do. The staking rewards have been, very attractive, and also, the rewards for the NFTs have also been super attractive as well. But at the end of the day, I think in the current market conditions we're in, we're spread too thin, and it's probably diluting our efforts at the moment. So it may be very popular with some people. It may be unpopular with others. What we can commit is that the changes that we're going to make are driving the value of MDB up, driving the burn of MDB up significantly, actually, within the next 60 days. Like I say, our goal is to burn sort of north of 30 million tokens within the next 60 days. And also we'll be driving up our yields, and then also our ability to buy back and increase rewards at the same time in the assets that we've got on Xenia.
Cool. So understandably, a million questions coming through. That's obviously really big news. I don't know how many you want to answer. I know we're going to give, very sort of granular, shall we say, detail, in the words of, what was his name? I can't remember, Mike. Detail on Friday. But there's probably a few that we should answer today, just to obviously make sure that everyone understands and is happy with the decision that's been made. So a couple of questions have come up about Infinity Yacht Club. I think that's quite an important one to answer. So just what's happening with Infinity Yacht Club.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and so it doesn't impact it shouldn't negatively impact Infinity Yacht Club. The staking contract is still true in terms of how it works. We can still distribute sort of MDB to the holders, and we'll continue to distribute MDB to the holders of the Infinity Yacht Club, and that'll be paid from yield from funds. Like I say, on Friday, and even leading up to Friday, there might even be a couple of bits of information that we share that are part of the bigger picture. But on Friday, we'll share sort of like all of the finer details. So what does that mean on every single point? So there's a question here. So what will happen to people that bought Infinity when it was at double the price it currently is? Are they getting reimbursed for that difference? How will that work? I suppose the challenge is that many people also sold Infinity at double the price they paid for it, and those people, aren't going to turn up to the party and say, okay, when you buy something, it goes into an LP and somebody else is selling something, right? It's a free market around a particular asset. So, if you bought Infinity at 20 cents a pre-sale and you sold it all at 60 cents, then lots of people have made lots of money out of Infinity, in truth. And when you've got something that kind of moves on an automatic market maker, it means you can't, without pulling back the profit from everybody, you can't. It has to come from somewhere, right? So I think we've paused trading at the amount it's at right now, and that is the amount that we will that we will honor in MDB tokens, and that's it's never ideal. It's not ideal to go through any sort of restructure, but there's many winners at the same time.
Cool.
Sorry, go on.
As I say, jump ahead, an interesting question. I guess we'd probably cover this in more detail on Friday, but Infinity partners, are they going to become regular partners? What happens with our partners?
Correct.
Cool. Just going through. So a couple of questions about strike price.
I was just going to share. So look, I think from a personal point of view, it's been a very difficult decision to come to, actually, and something that we've been thinking about for a few weeks. And it's very difficult when you're thinking about something, because all of these questions people are raising, like, well, hang on a second, well, what if I bought Infinity at 30 cents and now it's 17? And you know, all of those questions naturally come to the front, and that almost encourages you to do nothing, is just to leave it, just to let things run, and Infinity will do what Infinity is meant to do over a long period of time. But it's like I say, we've got to think about strategically for the greater good of the whole protocol, and the volume is ridiculously low. We even have tried several different things. We've obviously done the games, and we went through a process. We've done sort of regular smaller buys. We went through a process of, you know, we pumped in maybe $40,000 and we burned a huge amount of supply, but it's just not, you know, I think 90%, maybe even more, maybe 98% of people that own Infinity are people that own MDB, and it's become, you know, it's very much sort of like an internally focused token in the market. It's very difficult to get new eyes on your project as it is. And yeah, so anyway, long story short, it's been very difficult to come to the decision, because from an ego point of view, if I'm completely honest, it's not something that you want to do. But if I think about it with a business brain, actually, I think if you did buy Infinity at 40 cents and you get MDB, and we're concentrating the efforts, then it's going to give your MDB tokens a much greater chance of success and growth further forward, even beyond sort of like the position where you were on Infinity.
Cool. So understandably, lots of questions. I'll let you take the lead, Danny. I don't know how many you want to answer today versus how much you're going to cover on Friday. So I don't know if you want to have a quick read through the chat and pick out a few that you can go through today, or how we want to do it. I don't want to just, you know, ping a load of questions at you if they're sort of scheduled and it's part of the detailed sort of information that'll be coming out on Friday. So
yeah, I'm just having a look through at the moment. And one thing that I would ask, actually, is that between now and Friday, and, you know, I feel very strongly that we should be like, you know, we're all in this, right? Nobody nobody's more in this than we are, right? Let's be completely honest. And that's not to be sort of, I don't want to be sort of like critical of anyone else's investment, but we're invested in this completely from a financial and also a life point of view as well. And we'll be making, you know, sacrifices to make this work. It's not simple doing this restructure at all. So we're going to be taking on a lot of personal risk to make sure it happens, because we think it is definitely the right thing to do for the long-term health of the protocol. But at the same time, you know, we all have an interest in this, right? And so if people have opinions, and as long as they're, you know, constructive and objective, then absolutely share them, you know, over the next 5 days. So we'll be sharing sort of like detailed information around how that is going to work specifically. Like I say, it's one of about 4 or 5 other things, but I've felt, you know, every day I feel even more uncomfortable when I see somebody saying, "Well, should I buy Infinity? Should I buy MDB?" And actually, if it's not a strategic focus for the protocol, then I feel it's not right. It's not right for us to kind of stand in the background and let people make that decision, because we get more of those questions. So look, I think if you got views, opinions, like, hit us with it, and we've got. You know, we moved the committee as well, so we'll have the committee with the last one was actually really good, really useful for getting input, feedback, and kicking around ideas. And get your name into the committee on Friday. We can have, you know, a full warts and all conversation. But you know, leading anything isn't about getting it right all of the time. It's about, you know, making decisions that are forward looking rather than backwards looking. And that's where we are. I think there was a question around, you know, could we bring it back in the future? I think I think we have to learn some lessons from it. But at the same time, one thing that I'm very proud of is that most of what we launch has made people money, and clearly there will be exceptions to that rule, as there is with anything where the price moves. But yeah, just be very open. If you want to be critical, if you don't like it, and you've got maybe other ideas or thoughts about it, then feel free to shoot. There's nothing that's off the table.
Sorry,
I'm just looking. So there's another question here. So if we want to take the Infinity reimbursement and put it into the farm, we'll have to pay the tax still half of the MDB. Yeah, absolutely. And if you've got Infinity, that's staked at the moment, you would pay 5% to unstake it. You would pay 5% to sell it. But it's about concentrating significant backing value. I can't go into absolute details because we have to do some supply acquisition, obviously, but we don't want to sort of tell people the numbers so people can gain that system. But it's about restructuring into something that's got even greater future potential than we have at the moment. So it's a long-term decision.
Yeah, I think it's really important to remember that we would never just make a decision lightly. And I think actually just sitting back and, and it's not just us, so there's community members that feel the same, there's investors that feel the same, that Infinity, to just leave it because we didn't want to say, what, actually this isn't working, would be the wrong thing to do, right? I think the right thing to do as responsible project team leads, whatever you want to call us, is to actually look at the bigger picture here. And this overall will strengthen the project massively. So it is absolutely the right thing to do. And, it's not something that we would just do without, thoroughly running through it numerous times, the scenarios, the different things that could happen. And it's definitely the right thing to do for MDB as a protocol overall. So
Cool. Well, now people are talking about all sorts. So, but yeah, like I say, look, always be look, we're not overly sensitive souls. I can be sensitive sometimes, but if you've got views on it, you think we should be doing it differently, you don't like the way we're doing it, then absolutely say. Also, if you support it, then feel free to share. At the same time, but we have to look forward and look at sort of what we're doing over the next 6-12 months. There's a number of other questions it raises naturally. So NFTs will be paid MDB as they are at the moment, and the contract still exists, and to distribute those MDB tokens to the NFT holders, that it won't affect Infinity Yacht Club holders. There's lots of other things we share on Friday that will make things very clear, but it's from a protocol perspective, there's a lot of benefits. It does raise the question, okay, well, one of the things that Infinity is meant to do is offer ability to sort of trade something that's very volatile. The problem is if you don't have volatility, if you don't have volume, then you don't have volatility. It doesn't matter how small you make the LP, and there's just such low volume in the market. When we launched Xenia 2.0, to put that into perspective, we had similar volume to SafeMoon and I almost said Baby Mina Doge and Baby Doge, and both of them have market caps of about 160 million. And I've seen people say, well, MDB's volume is quite low when it's been 40, 50k, but there are protocols who are much larger than ours, have 10, 20, 50 times the amount of holders and have had similar volume to us in this market. I think, and I'm sure people that are in other protocols can see that as well. And the easiest thing for us to do would be to sit on our hands, to kick back, pop into the server once a week and say, we'll wait till the ball comes back. And we're not going to do that. We're always going to push the boundaries and try and take the ball by the horns. So that's what we're doing.
Cool. I don't think we have any other major questions. One good question actually is how will it impact Phoenix Plus yield? Is it expected to reduce with the change?
I think it swings and roundabouts, right? I think there's and that's another thing when you look when Infinity volume is high, then it's making a big contribution to Phoenix Plus. When it's extremely low, it's actually, you look at the size of the LP versus the volume, and it's actually taking from Phoenix Plus itself. So it's real swings and roundabouts. But one of the outputs is, okay, well, where does that leave Phoenix Plus, and how do we continue to find ways to drive volume through it? MDB AI goes some way towards that, and we've got a big focus this week on a number of different things that we can be doing with Phoenix Plus as well to be driving sort of more volume through it as well. So I think come to the AMA on Friday. It's going to be super, super interesting. And, look, I think, look, I saw somebody made a comment where they said, like it's not a rug, right? It's not a rug.
I think that was misinterpreted. I don't think they were saying that.
Yeah, I think it's So, but please be constructive. But you don't have to agree with us, right? You can think that we're idiots and we don't know what we're doing, and that's you're an investor. It's completely your prerogative to think that. But come to the AMA on Friday. We share the things that we're doing. You'll also understand the process that we're going through to make it happen. I think you'll understand. The backing for the protocol is going to increase significantly, and as a team, we're taking most of the risk to make that happen, quite frankly. So, and you get the details on that on Friday.
Cool. There's quite a few people typing, so we're nearly on the hour. So just seeing if there is any last questions come up before we wrap up. Killmonger says, I think it's a net win. To be fair, it means that about 1.2 million is added to the trust fund. Mouncy says, in Danny we trust. Martinga's made a pretty impressive gif. Have you seen it?
Yeah, I'm just saying it does actually look like me post holiday.
Have you got your nails done too?
I mean, more sort of like round the middle, but
I was going to say I hadn't noticed your new nails. Cool. I think I think that just about covers it.
Yeah, no, I misunderstood your comment forever. No, no, absolutely. And to be fair, it's not. One thing that Infinity shares with MDB is that it's a token backed by a fund, and what we're going to do is consolidate the two into one system, and we have something else that we're going to launch, which I've shared privately in Yacht Club before, which will enable people to speculate for almost zero tax on the future value of MDB. So I think, and we'll be, we'll share the details on Friday, but it puts the protocol in a much stronger position to weather the continued storm, and actually we could be out of the storm in 6 months, but we could be out of the storm in 18 months. And if we're consolidating our energy into a smaller space, then it's almost like a reactor, and that's really the logic behind it. Yeah. So Martinga said the gift was payback for my Infinity loss. Well, your Infinity loss is an unrealized loss, and it will become MDB, which, unless you sell the MDB, it still remains unrealized. So you should be okay. Yeah.
Where did they get it? Is that a YouTube still or something?
I don't know. Right. Should we? So should we knock this off, because it's getting it's getting silly in the chat. We've got a packed afternoon right up to 9 o'clock tonight. So I appreciate everybody tuning in. Like I say, if you want to be in that small committee that's going to discuss things at length, then put your name forward. At the same time, come to the AMA on Friday. I think you'll find the way that we're structuring things going forward really interesting.
Cool. Well, thank you for coming, everyone. I have I have recorded it, but I think Emsol's recorded it as well. So we'll post a link for anyone that missed it or joined late or anything for you to listen back as well. Cool. Shall we end then? You've gone quiet.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot. Take care.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.